Picture the most humiliating thing a soldier can do. Turn around, run, leave your comrades behind and sprint in the opposite direction of the enemy. Now imagine that this exact move, that shameful, cowardly, gut-wrenching retreat, is what wins you every single battle you ever fight. This is the story of Fabius Maximus, and the reason you have never heard of him is the same reason he was right all along. The year is 218 BC. Rome is terrified. A general named Hannibal Barca has just crossed the Alps with war elephants, actual elephants, and he is marching straight toward the heart of the Republic. He has already destroyed 2 Roman armies. Tens of thousands of Roman soldiers dead. The Senate is in chaos. The people are panicking. Rome needs a hero, and so they appoint a dictator. His name is Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus, and his strategy, announced to the Senate, is to do absolutely nothing. Not nothing in a lazy sense, nothing in the most deliberate, calculated, maddening sense you can imagine. No pitched battles, no direct confrontation, no glory, just shadow Hannibal. Follow him, watch him, cut off his supply lines, burn the fields before he can eat, harass his foraging parties, bleed him slowly, and never, ever give him what he wants, a real fight. The Romans hated it. They called Fabius the delayer. The word they used was cunctator, and they did not mean it as a compliment. His own second-in-command, a man named Minucius Rufus, was so furious with the strategy that he convinced the Roman people to grant him equal power with the dictator just so he could go fight Hannibal himself. Minucius attacked. Hannibal nearly destroyed him. Fabius had to ride in and rescue him, and still, no one said thank you. Here is what the Romans could not accept. Hannibal needed them to fight. His army was brilliant, but it was finite. He had no supply chain from Carthage, no reinforcements coming, no cities he controlled. Every soldier he lost was gone forever. His entire strategy depended on destroying Roman armies in the field, on breaking Rome's will, on making the Republic's allies switch sides. And the only way to do that was to win big, dramatic, decisive battles. Fabius understood this. He understood it the way a chess player understands a trap, 3 moves before it is set. If you refuse to fight, the brilliant general across from you is not brilliant at all. He is just a man stuck in enemy territory with a hungry army and no way home. Military historian Adrian Goldsworthy, in his exhaustive study of the Punic Wars, describes Fabius's approach as genuinely revolutionary for its time. Roman military culture was built around direct confrontation, courage, and the decisive clash of legions. To choose not to fight was considered, at a cultural level, almost immoral. Fabius was not just choosing a strategy, he was choosing to be humiliated so that Rome could survive. Think about what that costs a person. Every day, you watch Hannibal's army ravage the Italian countryside, villages burning, farms destroyed, your own allies calling out to you, begging for protection, and you sit on your hill and you watch. Because you know that the moment you come down, the moment you give Hannibal his battle, he will break you. The Roman Senate eventually stripped Fabius of his dictatorship. They had had enough of the delay, enough of the embarrassment, enough of the cunctator. They replaced him with 2 consuls, Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paulus, who promised the people a real fight, an aggressive fight, a Roman fight. In 216 BC, at a place called Cannae, they got their fight. Hannibal destroyed them. It is considered one of the most complete military defeats in human history. Polybius, the Greek historian who documented the Punic Wars in meticulous detail, estimated that Rome lost somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000 men in a single afternoon. 2 consuls, 80 senators, and an entire generation of Roman officers dead before sunset. Hannibal had set a trap, a deliberate, elegant trap, and Rome had walked straight into it because the alternative felt like weakness. And yet, even after Cannae, Rome did not collapse because Fabius was still there. In the years that followed, the Roman Senate quietly returned to the Fabian strategy. Avoid the pitched battle, harass, delay, and deny. Take back cities one at a time. Starve Hannibal's alliances. And it worked. Slowly, painfully, over the course of years, Hannibal's grip on Italy loosened. His army shrank. His allies returned to Rome. And eventually, having won nearly every battle he ever fought on Italian soil, Hannibal was recalled to Carthage, where he was finally defeated by a Roman general named Scipio, who had, ironically, studied Hannibal's own tactics. But here is the thing that gets lost in that story. Scipio only existed because Fabius had kept Rome alive long enough for Scipio to grow up. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman, in his landmark research on decision-making, identified what he called the narrative fallacy, the human tendency to construct stories around bold actions and dramatic moments, to see decisive movement as intelligence and caution as cowardice. We are wired to applaud the person who charges. We are wired to distrust the person who waits. Kahneman's work shows that this instinct is nearly universal and nearly always wrong in complex, high-stakes environments. The people who tend to survive long games are not the ones who swing hardest. They are the ones who know when not to swing at all. Fabius had no research on cognitive bias. He had no data on decision-making under stress. What he had was a clear understanding of one thing. If you know what your enemy needs from you, the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to give it to him. This applies to war. It applies to business. It applies to the argument you had last week where the other person kept escalating, kept pushing, kept trying to get a reaction out of you. There is a version of winning that looks exactly like losing from the outside. There is a version of strength that your own allies will call weakness until it is proven right. Strategist B.H. Littlehart, writing in the early 20th century, formalized what he called the indirect approach, the idea that the most effective military strategy is almost never the one that attacks the enemy's strength directly. His analysis of hundreds of military campaigns across history found a striking pattern. The commanders who sought to destroy the enemy's center of mass in a single decisive blow lost more often than they won. The commanders who sought to dislocate, to maneuver, to put the enemy in a position where fighting at all was a mistake, these commanders tended to win even when they were outnumbered, even when they were outgunned, even when every instinct said to charge. Fabius was doing this 2,000 years before Littlehart gave it a name. Here is something that rarely gets mentioned about the Fabian strategy. It required not just military discipline but psychological endurance of a kind that is almost impossible to sustain. Every day that you do not fight, you are choosing to absorb the damage of inaction. The burned fields, the dead civilians, the mockery of your peers, the whispers that you are afraid. You have to hold your nerve against the enemy, yes, but you also have to hold your nerve against your own side. That second battle is almost always harder than the first. Roman historian Livy, writing about Fabius centuries after his death, describes him as a man who was so certain of his own judgment that public opinion simply could not move him. Not arrogance, not stubbornness, just a deep, settled conviction that he could see the shape of the problem more clearly than the people screaming at him to act. That is a rare thing. Most people, under enough social pressure, eventually capitulate. They do the thing that will make the noise stop, even when they know it is wrong. Fabius did not capitulate. He waited, and Rome survived. They eventually gave him the title cunctator as an honor. The same word that had been an insult became a badge of distinction. The same delay that had been called cowardice became recognized as the thing that saved civilization. History has a way of doing that, of taking the person who was laughed at in the moment and eventually building them a statue. You have probably faced a version of this, a moment when everyone around you was pushing for action, for decisiveness, for something that looked like courage, and you felt the pull of a different answer, a slower answer, a harder answer, the answer that says, not yet, not like this, not on their terms. That instinct, the one that looks like fear from the outside, is sometimes the most sophisticated thing your mind can produce. It is the recognition that the game you are being invited to play is rigged, and that the only winning move is to change the game. Fabius Maximus spent his life being called a coward for winning. And tonight, when you face a moment where doing nothing feels impossible, when the pressure to act, to fight, to show up and prove yourself is overwhelming, remember a Roman general sitting on a hill, watching fires burn across the valley below, choosing to lose the moment so he could win the war. The most humiliating thing a soldier can do is turn around and run. Unless, of course, you are the one who planned it that way from the beginning.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an adventure with Doodler Historian. Got a fascinating battle, legendary general, or bizarre moment from history you'd like us to cover? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, keep your curiosity sharp, your history books open, and I'll see you in the next story. Farewell, historians.